Throughout the years, I've had many saxophonists ask me how can they get their sound to sound like mine. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you guys two techniques that I use to help me create a professional smooth jazz sax sound. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, this is Jason with the Smooth Jazz Sax School. Before we begin, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be notified when I put out more smooth jazz sax lessons like this one. Okay, so as I said before, in this lesson I'll be talking to you guys about two techniques that I use that can help you create a more professional saxophone sound when playing melodies in genres such as smooth jazz, gospel, pop, and R&B. Okay, so we want to get from this to sounding like this. It's important to understand that these techniques won't cover up an undeveloped tone, okay? You still need to work on having a nice, solid, developed tone by making sure you are still doing your long tone exercises and overtone exercises and whatever else you do to work on developing your tone, okay? So these techniques are just simply used to enhance your sound. So the first technique that I use is vibrato. I'm sure most of you guys know what vibrato is already, or you've heard of vibrato before, right? If you don't know what vibrato is, it's simply just the consistent lowering and raising of the pitch. So lowering and raising of the pitch, okay? The goal for me with vibrato is to sound as close to a good singer as possible, especially when talking about smooth jazz, because a lot of what smooth jazz is deals with creating nice melodies, nice sounding melodies and sounding like you're singing on the saxophone, right? But don't get me wrong, we still need to work on our improvisation skills and the other techniques that help us grow as a musician. But much of what our smooth jazz audience loves to hear revolves more around playing nice sounding melodies. So here's an example of a note without vibrato and then a note with vibrato. So remember that vibrato is the consistent lowering and raising of the pitch. Okay, so the type of vibrato that I use is the jaw vibrato. With the jaw vibrato, you are lowering the pitch and then raising it back up with your jaw. And to help me create that motion in my jaw, I use the syllable wah. So wah, 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 wah. Okay, so wah, 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 wah. So if you think of and say the wah syllable, it will help you achieve the motion in the jaw when playing. So here's what I do to practice vibrato. I set the metronome to 60 beats per minute, and then I create 4 pulses over 1 beat. Okay, so it'll sound something like this. Once you can play the vibrato at that tempo evenly and consistently, you should then increase the tempo. Practice this on all of the notes on your saxophone, from the low B flat all the way to the high F, or F sharp if you have an F sharp key. So there's no right or wrong way to use vibrato in smooth jazz, but the most important thing is to keep the sound consistent and controlled. So we don't want our vibrato to sound like this. You want to practice your vibrato when you're doing long tones on your instrument when warming up. Listen to sax players and see how they use their vibrato. You know, some of them have wide vibrato and some of them have narrow vibrato. Right? This just depends on your preference and the sound that you're trying to aim for. The next technique that I want to talk to you guys about is grace notes. For me, the secret sauce to my sound are grace notes. And if you listen to many smooth jazz saxophonists, you will notice that they are using grace notes in their playing. Okay? Grace notes, they allow us to sound as close to a singer as possible. Most singers don't sing with a straight tone when singing melodies, right? They naturally add certain embellishments and certain ornamentations to their sound, which adds emotion and interest to their sound. So for us saxophonists and musicians, one way that we can add emotion and interest to our sound is to use grace notes, okay? Because if the singers are doing it, we should be doing it too. If we're trying to sound like a singer, if they're doing it, we should be doing it too. So here's an example of how grace notes can help you sound more professional. I'm going to play it first without grace notes. Here's how it sounds with grace notes. So I like to use half-step grace notes. So if my main note is E, I would play a D-sharp grace note, which is a half step below E. If I'm trying to get to an A, then I would play a G-sharp grace note and so on, right? So half-step grace notes. You don't exactly have to use half-step grace notes. If your ears are telling you that whole-step grace notes sound better, then by all means use whole-step grace notes. I just love the way half-step grace notes sound, okay? And one thing that I see a lot of beginner and intermediate saxophonists do to emulate a singer is, instead of using grace notes, they use bends. They do this. Although there's a time and place to use bends, overusing bends is one of the easiest ways to sound like an amateur on the saxophone, right? And I believe that they use bends because they may not understand that there's a better way and an easier way to get that sound that they're hearing in their heads, that sound that they're trying to aim for. Right, so, but bends should be used more like a special effect rather than it being overused. So use grace notes instead. If you want to sound like the professional smooth jazz saxophone artists, you need to use grace notes. Almost all of them use it. Obviously, there are other things that artists do to contribute to their sound, but I just wanted to give you guys 2 things that can help give you immediate success in achieving that professional sound that you're looking to get, assuming that you have a nice solid tone already. Okay, so remember that adding vibrato and grace notes to your sound does not make up for a bad tone. If you were wondering what song I was playing for my demonstrations, it is called Wine Light by Grover Washington Jr. Go ahead and click the link below in the description section to visit our resource library to get a free PDF of this song. And make sure that you listen to your favorite saxophonists to see how they use vibrato and grace notes in their playing. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you next week.